Patient autonomy. Okay. So I remember last time one of the question that we discussed was, what if the patient himself or herself is already not able to give permission, like his or her mental or physical disability does not allow him or her to give permission for using the neurotechnology on his or her brain. So what do we do, right? So that was one thing that we discussed last time. Very good. Mental privacy in research. Okay, great. The challenge of equity, yeah. And also, so where does these data come from? Like the currently neurotechnology, the AI, the data probably come from more developed country, right? But we have different culture, and it's difficult to obtain data from developing countries that take into account of their cultural context, right? So these are some topics that we discussed last time related to neurotechnology. So today we will have two sessions. So the first session will be introduced by me on United Nations and UNESCO. So the second session we have invited Ms. Vivian Yuen, who have participated in the Model UNESCO conference for Ethics of Neurotechnology last year in December. So that was a conference for university students to participate in, and it was on discussion for the same topic. So she will share some experience with you guys. Apart from, so maybe she will walk through her slides, maybe she will give you guys some tips, and I think you guys can also ask her some questions regarding how to prepare for Model UNESCO conferences, and also how to make friendship through the conferences, how to enjoy the conferences in the future, right? So yeah, so that will be starting from 5 p.m. the next session. So anyway, if you have missed the first session, we have actually uploaded the first session on YouTube, on our official YouTube, so you can watch it anytime. So I'll just share the link to the YouTube video here, so you guys could also here. So this is the YouTube link to the first session, so in case you have missed it. So anyway, I will start my session, so just allow me to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen sharing? Yes? Is it sharing? Yes, okay. So, introduction to Model UNESCO and the UNSDGs. My session is actually quite, so my content is actually quite packed. So I don't think I'm able to finish everything within this 1 hour, but if you guys have other questions, you can ask me at the end in the Q&A session. So I'll try to finish everything fast. So just a short introduction about me. So I'm Americana, the Youth Affairs Coordinator of the UNESCO Hong Kong Association, and also a UNSDGs certified teacher. So I have participated in 3 Model UNESCO international conferences. The first and second one as a delegate myself, and the third one as a actually 4 Model UNESCO international conferences. The third one, I was a supervising teacher, and the 4th conferences, I was a coordinator. So because the 4th conference, international conference for university students, was hosted in Hong Kong, so I was one of the coordinator of the conference. So I've also participated in different international conferences, such as the COP29 conference. So we will talk about United Nations and UNESCO first. So if you have participated in the coordinator training, you are probably familiar with most of the contents of my presentation, but you're welcome to actively engage with the Q&A and the interactions. So first of all, I want you to use one word or one simple sentence, no more than 5 words, to describe the United Nations, what would you say? You can type in the chat. Just use one word. So I see peace. Yeah, very good. Team. So collaboration, right? Non-profit. Okay. Non-profit. Yeah, it's non-profit, but not exactly how we describe it. So we do not describe it as an NGO. United Nations. Global issue discussion, international cooperation. Very good. Thank you. So I'll just give you some of my ideas. So peace, diversity, inclusion. So diversity and inclusion are very important, right? Because United Nations is made up of so many different countries, 190 something countries. So there is a very, very diverse of culture. So that is why inclusion and mutual understanding is very, very important. And a very lawful organization, a serious organization, and it has a very complex structure. And we also have partnership, negotiation, and fairness, right? Just as what our participant Marian has said, team, right? We are a team. We are managing the international cooperation together. So why do we say that it's a complex system? So if we look at this diagram or this image, I downloaded it from the United Nations in 2021. It has so many different specialized agencies, have regional commissions, subsidiary organs in the organization. Apart from the 6 UN principal organs, including the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the Secretariat, and the International Court of Justice. And of course, the one that has a remark on it, a special one, the Trusteeship Council. In total, there are 6 principal organs in the United Nations. These are the 6 most important organizations, or like the bodies in the United Nations that governs the actions of the other subsidiary organizations. So why are these 6 special? One thing about these 6 is that these 6 organs are written in the United Nations charters upon the creation of the United Nations. So that is why in the remark of the Trusteeship Council, so although the Trusteeship Council is still in this diagram, in this image, but it has already stopped operating on the 1st of November in 1994, because in 1994, Palau, the last United Nations trust territory, became independent. And the reason why the Trusteeship Council is still included in this diagram today is because it was written in the United Nations Charter that these 6 principal organs must organize all the activities of the other specialized agencies and commissions. So in this diagram, I also highlighted one of the specialized agency, that is UNESCO. So participating in the model UNESCO, you must understand what UNESCO stands for and also the works of UNESCO. So UNESCO stands for the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. So we are under the United Nations big family. And inside UNESCO, there are also different structure of our organization. It's quite different from the United Nations. So UNESCO specifies that every country, because UNESCO works with education, scientific, and culture, these kind of main fields. So that is why it's very important. So it connects very closely with each country's education system. So that is why UNESCO urges every country, every member country, to establish their own national commission. So this is one special feature of UNESCO in terms of organization structure. And of course, China has our own Chinese National Commission for UNESCO, and also what we call CNFUCA, the National Federation of UNESCO Clubs, Centers, and Associations. So the main roles of UNESCO includes forward-looking research, standard setting, quality education, information and communication, and the development and exchange of knowledge and technologies. So we mainly work in these fields, and you can see how each of these actually connects well with this topic, the ethics of neurotechnology. So why does UNESCO focus? So why is this topic one of UNESCO's concern, right? Because we need to set the standard for the ethical use of neurotechnology. We need to do research in this forward-looking field. We need to educate our youth about the use of neurotechnology, right? So you can see how these main roles connect with our topic today. So this is one of the most famous line in the UNESCO Constitution. Since war began in the minds of men and women, it is in the minds of men and women that the defense of peace must be constructed. So remember a few slides ago, when we talked about United Nations, one of its main missions is to maintain peace, right? And UNESCO does this by changing people's mind or educating people, or making this concept of peace clearer for our next generation and also for the general public in terms of lifelong education, right? So although comparing to United Nations, we are looking for the same result to maintain a peaceful world, but how we do it is quite different. So when we established UNESCO, was same as the United Nations. It's right after World War II. But even during the World War II, the education department or the Minister of Education of different countries has already came together to looking for ways and means to rebuild the education system once peace was restored. And that led to the creation of UNESCO. So just after the World War II, in November, we established UNESCO. Up until today, it's already 81 years old. So I would also like to mention a few domains of expertise of UNESCO. So apart from education, which it is quite well known for, and of course culture, there are also different other fields that UNESCO focuses on. For example, ocean sciences. For example, communication and information, the freedom of expression, media development. These are all topics that UNESCO works on or concerns with. So how about UNESCO Hong Kong Association? So I would just like to quickly introduce two of the main hosts of this Model UNESCO conference. One is the UNESCO Hong Kong Association, and the other one is the Hong Kong Institute of Education for Sustainable Development. So we are both members of the Chinese National Federation of UNESCO Club Centers and Association, and we are also a regional reporting member of the United Nations Global Compact. And these two organizations, so what are the relationship between these two organizations is that the Hong Kong Institute of Education for Sustainable Development is the secretariat of the UNESCO Hong Kong Association. So guess which one was established first? The top one or the bottom one? Anybody? Top one? Okay. Everybody thought it's the top one, but actually the one that was established first was the bottom one, the Hong Kong Institute of Education for Sustainable Development. The reason is that the UNESCO Hong Kong Association is a charity organization itself, so it must be based on a operating company, a non-profit organization that conducts training and actually helps to deliver its aims. So actually, the HIESD at the bottom was established first in 2003. And as the secretariat of the UHKA, it applied to the Chinese National Federation of UNESCO for the establishment of the UHKA in Hong Kong in 2010. So this year is actually the 50th anniversary of the UHKA. And we have started to promote education for sustainable development in Hong Kong since 2003. So up until today, it's like around 25 years already. Yeah, so we do have a international network and also a national network that help us to achieve our aims of promoting sustainable development. Okay, so next I want to jump into the next session of the topic about Model UNESCO. So this part is where I walk you through the whole process of participating in a Model UNESCO. So the first session in the morning, you will be sitting in a room with all of the other delegates and presenting your ideas each by each. So every team comes up to the stage and present what you have prepared. So this is what. So this is similar to the general debate session of the United Nations General Assembly. So remember that the United Nations General Assembly, it conducts a meeting every year in September to around November that time. So in the first session, the leader of each country prepare a script, and then they come to the stage to read the script or to present their stance, right? So this is similar to that situation. So every team, you will be allocated. So I received a few inquiries about when you will know which country you represent. So the preliminary ends at the 11th of May, and then the result will be announced on the 19th of May. So when you receive your result, the email, if you have made it to the final, the email will specify which country you represent. So for example, if you come from India, and there is only one delegation, there's only one Indian team that got into the final, then you will automatically represent the delegation of India. But we will also write in the email specifically to let you know that you represent the delegation of India. But if there are more than one team that represents, for example, the delegation of Switzerland. So, for example, there are more than one team from Switzerland that entered the final. Then there will only be one team that is the delegation of Switzerland. The other team, we will allocate one country to the team that has a background similar to Switzerland, or like a country nearby. So to prevent clashes of delegations at the end, so at the final round of the Model UNESCO conference. Yeah, so for Hong Kong teams, we will have the Hong Kong GBA conference first. So you will represent different countries, and then the country you represent will also be sent through email. And then how about you will ask, what if I won an award in the Hong Kong conference, Hong Kong GBA conference? Which country I will represent in the international conference in July 25th? Then you will probably, the highest chance is that you will represent the same country that you did in the Hong Kong GBA conference. But if it has a clash with the international teams, we will allocate another country to you. But we will make sure that we try our best to prevent this from happening during the first stage of preliminary allocation. So we try not to allocate any of the international teams that already exist in the finalist list to our Hong Kong teams, so that we can prevent this switching of delegation in the final stage. Because you only have a few days to prepare for the final after the Hong Kong GBA conference. So we wanted to make sure that you are able to reuse or just polish your previous PPT slides. Yeah, so I hope that is clear. And so in this session, let's get back to the PowerPoint. So in this session, you will be speaking in the tone or in the shoe of the country that you represent. So you will present the strategies that your country are already implementing, in which they propose to, implement in their country in the future. For example, I do some research on what kind of things has my country done already in the field of ethics of neurotechnology. And I review these policies. I try to see what are some of the challenges or what are some parts that have not been very efficient. And I try to propose some innovative strategies for the country to implement in the future. So one thing that is very important is to make a very clear focus. For example, my focus is on data privacy and also protecting the child and all the elderly. So I will use these two focuses throughout my PowerPoint. So because the ethics of neurotechnology is also a very big topic, so it's very easy to just try to cover everything in your PowerPoint. But you only have 3 to 4 minutes for your speech. So it's not very feasible to try to cover everything in your slide. So I do recommend teams to choose 1 or 2 focuses based on your country's already established policies. For example, if my country's policy mainly focuses on privacy, but in my presentation, I just did some random things that are nothing related to privacy, just some other topic, then it's not really smart because you need to connect these parts together. You need to combine the research part and your own ideas together, right? So it will be more efficient to find a match. Yeah, so this part usually takes 3 to 4 minutes for every team, and you will have, and then you will have 3 to 4 minutes for Q&A. This depends on the total number of delegations and the conference rules. That's usually around 3 to 4 minutes. And you will present in alphabetical order. So in session 2, we will have the debate and discussion session, and then this will consist of the moderated and the unmoderated session. So during the moderated session, this part is probably the most complex part. So I'll just use an example. So for example, we have 20 delegations in total, and the overall theme is the ethics of neurotechnology. So in this setting, we say that each 2 delegation will propose a specific motion that they want to discuss. For example, the delegation of Egypt says that we want to discuss the imbalanced opportunities of using neurotechnology. And the delegation of Denmark says that we want to discuss data privacy concerns in the use of neurotechnology. And then all the other delegations will vote on which of the motion they want to discuss. In this case, 16 other delegations want to discuss the motion proposed by Egypt, and only 2 delegations supported the motion proposed by Denmark. Then Egypt will have the right to say that we want to discuss this topic so a total of 10 minutes is decided by the conference rules. So the conference rule, wait, let me go back to that slide. The conference rules will say how long each round of discussion will last. In this case, in this example, it's 10 minutes. But in our real conference, it could be 15 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 20 minutes. So this depends on the final document that we will send to you after you get through the preliminary. So we'll send the document to the finalist that specifies the rules of how many minutes will be lasting in each round. So in this example, it's 10 minutes, say that it's 10 minutes, and then Egypt being selected will have the right to say that we want individual speaking time to be 2 minutes. So we just simply divide 10 by 2. So the chair will know that there will be 5 delegations speaking this round. And Egypt has the right to say that we want to speak first or they want to speak last. In this case, Egypt wanted to speak last. And then the chair will ask, what other delegations wish to speak for this motion? And in this case, we have 4 other delegates selected: Malaysia, Nepal, Japan, and India. And then they will form this speaker list. So they will speak in Egypt first, and then India, Malaysia, Japan, Nepal, they will speak for this motion. And then we will go to the next round. So Denmark and Egypt has already proposed their motion. So the next cycle will go to Canada and Brazil, because this part we will go in anti-alphabetical order. So now Canada says that we want to continue the discussion of the previous motion because we found it interesting and we didn't have enough time to discuss it. So that is also okay. And then Brazil proposed a completely new topic. They want to discuss the problem of the commercial use of neurotechnology data. So this next round begins. So now the 18 other delegations will vote on which topic they want to discuss. So that wraps up the moderated discussion rules. So any question here? Let me just see the chat. Because this part is quite difficult to understand. So any question? All right, so I'll just go to the Amod. So the unmoderated part, you will be able to do face-to-face discussion. So you just stand up from your seats and you are able to chat with the other delegates freely, just like a cocktail party. And in this part, you will be split into 3 to 4 groups. So it's not that the chairman will split you guys into 3 to 4 groups, but the groups actually forms automatically. So imagine that you already went through a whole day of conference. This is probably the last stage. You probably already know which are the countries that align with your ideas, right? So you will see that a few countries were talking about privacy, a few countries were talking about the other commercial use and etc. So probably already know which countries are more close to your ideas, and you guys had lunch, had tea times together, had enough time to mingle around. So this part actually, in our previous experiences, the teams formed quite naturally. 3 to 4 groups, and in some cases 2 groups. So they draft their respective resolution, which include a specific number of preambulatory and operative clauses. So this will also be specified in the conference rules that we will send you later on. So this session is usually the most exciting because you are free to walk around and chat with the other delegates. Yeah, so this is an example. So what we will do simultaneously in this unmoderated session is the drafting resolution part. So each group will draft their respective resolution just from their discussion throughout the day. And then we will go to the voting. So during the voting part, one of the biggest difference between Model UNESCO and Model United Nations is that the resolutions are drafted after the drafting of the resolution, the voting are done clause by clause, not resolution by resolution. So in Model United Nations, usually you form like 3 to 4 blocks, and then at the end, each block submits a drafted resolution, and we vote for one resolution to be finalized, to be polished, to be amended for the final one, right? So, but in Model UNESCO, actually everybody's idea have a chance to be included. So that is why we vote clause by clause. And also that is why we limit the number of clauses in each draft resolution submitted by the groups, because we don't want to do endless voting until like 10 p.m. So we limit the number of clauses each group can write, and then we vote on each clause. And usually it's only based on simple majority. So after this round of voting for the clauses, we will go to the voting of the awards. So Model UNESCO emphasizes collaboration and reaching consensus. So delegates will be given the right to vote for their peers. So we do pair by pair voting. Of course, the judging panel and also the chair panel have a higher number of votes. For example, the chair panel have like 5 or like 10 votes. So like 1 vote count as 10. But and the judging panel, so this year we might have a judging panel, which also have a higher number of voting rights. So apart from that, delegates are allowed to vote for their peers. So every delegate have 1 vote, not every delegation. So every delegate have 1 set of votes. So they will be able to vote for the team awards and the individual awards, and not allowed to vote for themselves. So that concludes all of the processes of Model UNESCO conference. And at the end of this section of my speech, I want to ask you guys, what is your motivation in participating in a Model UNESCO conference? Anybody? I'll look at the chat. Oh, sorry, here. I'll look at the chat. And you are also free to unmute yourself if you want to speak. Why do you want to participate in Model UNESCO? To approach global issues and to have more experiences on public speaking. Very well, very good. And maybe let's see. Ingrid, I hear. Ingrid, what is your motivation? Make an impact. Okay. So to contribute to international policy making and make an impact, right? Very good. To see the opinions of others. Okay, to have a chance of discussion with the other. And that is what United Nations is a platform for, right? For more opinions to be communicated, for different voices from different cultures to be exchanged, right? And more meet passion peers from around the world are very good, participate in social issues. And one of the things that I want to mention is that UNESCO has participating in this model. UNESCO allow you to represent the voice of countries on the global stage and mastering diplomatic skills and ethical insights needed to shape the future of human rights in the age of neurotechnology. Very good, thank you, Solomon. And one of the graphs that I want to show you guys is this one. So it's 8 skills for sustainable development that UNESCO proposes. So these include collaborative, normative, anticipatory, strategic, and self-awareness, critical thinking, system thinking, and integrated problem solving. So these are 8 skills that we want you to nurture through this Model UNESCO conference. We want you to practice, and we want you to be able to become a very we want you to develop with this whole person development approach to this Model UNESCO conference. All right. So last section. So I think I'm doing quite well with the time because I split into 3 sections and I have 1 hour. So each will take around like 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm doing quite well with the time. So last section is about UNSDGs. So before we dig into what the SDG is about, so I want you guys to think, what are we facing? What have we changed? What have we done and what can we do in the future in relation to our current landscape, like the Earth, the global landscape, the geopolitical landscape? What are we facing? What have changed from the past? What have we done and what can we do in the future? So having these questions in mind, let's go into the next slide, which is what I want to introduce to you, is the World Economic Forum. It issues a global risk report every year. So if you have participated in the coordinator training, you are familiar with this already. If you have participated in the previous conferences, you will know that I pull this report out every year to talk about this, because this is very interesting. So this year's report is already completely different from last year's report. So the first risk this year is geo-economic confrontation. Second one is state-based armed conflict. It's already completely different from what we had last year because of the current situation that is happening, right? So let's do this again. So pull out your phone, scan this QR code. Let's try to rank the risk categories. So in this report, risks are categorized into economic, environmental, geopolitical, societal, and technological. So in total, there are 5 categories. So what do you think people perceive as the highest risk in 10 years' time? So remember, we are doing it as a long term. So open up your vision. We are looking at 10 years in the future. So I'll just share with you. Oh, yeah. So I'll just share with you you guys the results. Wait. Okay. Let's give it 1 or 2 more minutes. You can scan the code here, right? I see 8 people answered. We have like 32 participants. Let's go. I'll give it 1 more minute. I see there are 2 participants still ranking. By the way, I do see some previous participants from schools in Poland. So later on, like at the end of the session, I might ask you guys to speak a little bit about your previous experience. So maybe prepare a few sentences and share with our current participants, okay? Thanks. All right. Okay, we see that in 10 years, people rank the first one is environmental, second one technological, third one geopolitical, fourth one economic, and the fifth one, oops, accidentally clicked annotate. The fifth one is societal. Okay, let's compare with the results. Let me just reshare my screen. Here. So the actual result is that very good. The first one is environmental. Second one is technological. And actually the third one is not geopolitical and not economic. The third one is probably societal problems. So these are more like the deeply rooted problems in the society that takes very, very long time to resolve, right? Inequality, societal polarization. These, even if it's from the same category, it's different from what we see in 2 years. For example, in 2 years, we do see the erosion of human rights or civic freedoms and involuntary migration or displacement. But involuntary migration or displacement might be a more like a 2 years, 3 years, 4 years problem. But in 10 years, the more deeply rooted ones we see are like societal polarization, inequality, right? And then also I do want to talk about, so you see this year, so currently the most concerning problem is geopolitical conflict. But that one in 10 years time is already not here. So it really gives us a more clear view of the current short-term and long-term risk. So I do encourage you guys to look at this global risk report, because they also have many other interesting graphs like this one. This one is about like change from last year. So you see like biggest increase is of course geopolitical confrontation and economic downturn and things about economic. And we have biggest fall in ranking for some climate change related stuff. Because I mean like in these 2 years, people are more active in terms of climate action. I believe everybody could see more news on like ESG company doing climate actions. So these concerns have fallen in ranking. But then biggest increase is the economic and the geopolitical ones. And also this one is quite interesting. It's talk about the interconnectedness of these risks. But I'll just skip it for now. So let's talk about the SDGs. So knowing that we have so many different risks in the world, and they are very dynamic. So they change. But actually, the United Nations has started to promote sustainable development not from 2015, but from 1972. So in 1972, the first UN conference the first critical world conference on environmental issue, it's a very, very important milestone, was the Stockholm Conference. It's called the UN Conference on the Human Environment, in which we established the Stockholm Declaration. So the declaration, so I do encourage you guys, if you guys have time, you can read the Stockholm Declaration. It's quite inspiring. So people, you can see that how much people are concerned with these environmental issues in 1972. So it was the first major world conference for environment, and it has 26 principles, placing environmental issues at the forefront of international concern. And one of the landmark was the creation of the UNEP during this conference. And then time goes to 1992. So one of the things that I always highlight is, you can see here, in between these 2 years, these two important conferences, it's already 20 years, right? So, and then if you look at here, this one until the next one, it's like 8 years. So throughout these times, we become more and more aware of the sustainable development issues, that we host more frequent conferences. But from the first one to the second one, it took like 20 years. So you can see how difficult it was to promote these kind of causes on top of just purely economic development, right? And also one of the other highlights is the change of the names. So the first conference we took was called the UN Conference on Human Environment. And the second one is on environment and development. So throughout these 20 years, we have gradually realized that we cannot, it's like we cannot only focus on environment, but we cannot only focus on development. So these two have to be balanced. So we put the most desirable situation is to put it on the same level of concern, the same level of resources devoted to care about these two topics. So that is why we had the 1992 conference in Brazil called the Earth Summit, where we established Agenda 21. It's like a document. It talks about like our agenda for the 21st century. And also encourage, one of the very important thing is that it realized that every government have their own rules and own policies and own local circumstances and context. So that is why every government locally should have its own Agenda 21. And I do think that this is quite an important takeaway for participating in more UNESCO conferences, because you will be representing a country, right? So it's very important to have a global overview, understanding of what is happening around the world for the ethics of neurotechnology for this topic, and narrow down the scope to look at your own country, to look at your own local agenda for ethics of neurotechnology. But before that, you have to understand what the world is doing, like as a whole, as an overall picture. Oh, and by the way, in that conference, we said that we want to achieve global sustainable development by 2000. And clearly, we did not achieve it. So let's try again. So in 2000, what we did is we had another conference, and one of the major breakthrough here is to establish a new mechanism called goals, G-O-A-L, goals. So we try to set up goals for development. Before then, we didn't have these kind of cute images that people follow. So in 2000, we had 8 goals called the Millennium Development Goals, MDGs. But if we look at the goals, most of them are just concerned with the social aspect. So it's easy to look at the images. The first one is about eradicating extreme poverty and hunger. The second one is on achieving universal primary education. And then we have gender equality. We have reduced child mortality. These are all like more focused on raising the bar for developing countries. So try to help them to develop to the same stage as developed countries, right? So it's more focused on a small group of countries around the world. Not every country is applicable for these targets, for these goals. Oops. So how have we done? So actually, we only achieved I think 5 out of 18 or 5 out of 17 targets. So we failed again, and we reviewed what we could improve on. And in 2015, we had the 17 SDGs. So the 17 SDGs are with 169 targets. They are more specific, and they want every country to participate. So not only the developing countries, and we want to achieve these goals by 2030. So in general, we split these goals into 3 pillars. It's like a wedding cake. We call it a wedding cake model. So we have the bottom pillar as the environmental one, the second one as the society, and the third one is the economy. And in the middle, across all of this topic, is partnership for the goals. So that specifies that we need to have global partnership in order to achieve any of the goals. And I won't go through the goals one by one, but just simply let you know that the first 1 to 7, the first row, are mostly the social ones. The second row, like 8 to 12, are mostly the economic one. And 13, 14, 15 are concerned with the environment. 8 to 12 are economy, and 17 to 15 are environment. And then 16 and 17 are mostly the overarching goals. Okay, so apart from the SDG, another thing I want to mention is that actually we do only have like 4 years for the SDGs until 2030. So the UN initiated something new last year called the UN 2.0 Quintet of Change. So the UN 2.0 is a new agenda that seeks to amplify the impact of the United Nations through 5 quintet of change: behavioral science, data, strategic foresight, digital, and innovation. And actually, I won't dive into the documents in detail, but I do think these are very important 21st century skills enabled by a forward-thinking culture that you guys can incorporate in your proposals as well. Because like behavioral science, digital, these are all related to our topic of ethics of neurotechnology. Yeah, so I also have a graph that shows the progress of United Nations promoting SDGs. Since like here it's like 1995, and you can see 2015 was the establishment of the SDG and the 2030 agenda, and then now we are at we're around this stage, right, after 2024. So lastly, a little bit coverage on this topic. So I believe Dr. Daphne covered this publication last time already. And actually, something she did not mention, but is also publicly available on UNESCO's website, is UNESCO's 4 core values for AI system. And I do think you guys it's very good for you guys to refer back to when you guys make your PowerPoint. It's central to the recommendation of 4 core values which lay the foundation of AI system. These are human rights and human dignity, living in peaceful, and ensuring diversity, inclusiveness, and environment and ecosystem flourishing. So try to incorporate these core values for using AI established by UNESCO in your final, your work. Okay. And UNESCO also proposed a few actionable policies for implementing AI for responsible development in AI. And I do have some other exploration. So this one. So I do find these videos very interesting. So the UNESCO, for this ethics of neurotechnology, it has an ad hoc expert working group. So there are 24 high-level experts geographically spread out from different countries, expressing their different views on this topic, ethics of neurotechnology. And they are just short videos on YouTube. You guys can take a look. It's very interesting. And lastly, I do want to show one video that I picked. Is quite interesting to watch. So I'll see if I have shared my system sound. Okay, so I'll conclude with this video.
You know, nanotechnology, it's evolving very rapidly, and the conversion with artificial intelligence is making that development even faster. And so it's going beyond the health sector, it's permeating education, culture, and all fields of human endeavor. And so we are putting forward this, I would say, unique an important global standard setting on the ethics of neurotechnology, because we have to make sure that this technology will benefit all the people that really can use this technology to address some of their learning challenges, their cognitive challenges, that this technology doesn't become a threat, for example, on the privacy and human rights, individual human rights. And I think this is why this recommendation of UNESCO is so important in this moment.
So it's only a short 1-minute video, and I do think that it's quite inspiring for you guys to explore further in this field. So that concludes my presentation. And before we go into the Q&A, maybe I'll just invite the team from Poland. Do you guys want to share a little bit about your previous experiences and give some tips for the new participants?
So 2 years ago, I've got the amazing opportunity to be a part of the Model UNESCO conference. The topic was about artificial intelligence in education, which was very interesting for me because it was actually a topic that concerned us very, very much, because we actually were and still are a part of the education system. So, and artificial intelligence is all around us. So it was really an interesting topic, and it changed the way that I look at artificial intelligence. And it really did help me broaden my perspectives because now I don't look at artificial intelligence as just a tool to write your essays or help you with math, but I look at it from both its risks and its opportunities that it gives you. So yeah, it was very interesting. And also it was a great opportunity to meet many great delegates from across the world. With some of them I still keep in touch, and yeah, it's really really a great experience. So I'm excited to maybe participate again this year.
Great.
Yeah. So hi guys, I'm Vivian. So I was can you go to next. Yeah. So I'm Vivian. So I'm currently a PhD student in medical science at the CHK, and I was also did my master's in cognitive systems and interactive media at UPF, and I'm the awardee of the best presentation at the 4th International UNESCO Model conference back in December 2025 as a delegate of Egypt. So yeah. So for today, I'll first speak about the personal experience that I had at UNESCO, and then I'll share the presentation that was awarded the best presentation, and finally we'll give you some tips on how to present in UNESCO. So let's first go into the personal experience sharing. Next slide, please. So for the first day, as Americana already told you the brief overview, it first started with the conference. So for university students, it's obviously a lot smaller. We only have one delegate per delegation. So you can see on the bottom slides during the presentation, we'll just be in front where the rest of the delegation will be listening to the presentation. And at the end, during the question panel, you can see we'll raise the cards to ask the questions, and the judge will choose which delegation to present these questions for us to answer at the end. After that, we'll have the ceremony dinner. During the ceremony dinner, we'll first have dinner and then the presentation of the awards, some pictures, and finally there are also some cultural experiences. And in this experience, we learned how to make milk tea by a chef, a Hong Kong chef that's known for it. Next slide, please. And on the second day, that's where a lot of more fun begins, and it'll be more relaxing as well during this cultural and knowledge exchange. So during this exchange, we went around the City Gallery of Hong Kong, Central Market, and Tai Kwun. That's when you really do get to know all the people, all the other delegates, and talk to them. And there were people from different countries. I met people from Kenya, from Kazakhstan, from France, and these people I still keep in touch with. So it is really an experience where you can make lifelong friends and learn a lot more about their culture and share your experiences and really see where we have a lot more in common than we think. And generally, it's a really fun experience, and I learned a lot from these few days from the conference. So why don't we go into the sharing of the presentation? So for the presentation, I did securing of please go back, please. The Egyptian mind in the Neuro Age, establishing foundational legislation and regulatory authority on neuro rights. Yep. So as Americana already gave a presentation in the last hour, I'll give you a brief reminder on the guidelines. So it's split into session 1 and session 2 for our presentation. So session 1 for us was split into the morning, and then session 2 was in the afternoon. So during the introductory speech, we had 2 minutes where we had to introduce the country, briefly explain how neurotechnology are developing, how countries deal with ethical issues like mental privacy and equal access, and then suggest one solution to ensure neurotechnologies are used fairly and safely. We then had a lunch break, and in the afternoon, we had session 2, where we actually did the strategy proposal and the voting. So for us, again, we only had one delegate per country. And for this, it was a 3-minute presentation plus 1-minute question panel. And we only have 7 slides max compared to unlimited slides for you guys. And to present the announcement of our strategy, focusing on the questions in the next slides. So these are some of the proposal focus that Americana has explained in the last presentation. So we'll go into the next slide, please. So let's go into my presentation for session 1. Sorry. For the introductory speech and the strategy. So instead of sharing the 2-minute presentation, I put it into a slide for you guys so it gives you a better overview. So before I go into that introductory speech, let's give you an overview of the current neurotechnological trends in Egypt. So current players in neurotechnology for Egypt are academic research and private startups for medical uses, with some startups in neuro games as well. They see brain-computer interface, or BCI, as the next priority future for national AI strategy. And this concerns, and BCI are capable of reading neural signals and raises concerns about unconsented extraction of private thoughts, emotions, or intentions. So right now, there are no universal legal frameworks yet that define neural rights to protect mental privacy in Egypt, which invades cognitive liberty and mental privacy. No, please stay. So there's also no specific laws regulation directly addressing neurotechnology in Egypt. But there are regulations on medical use, data protection, and privacy based on the current healthcare laws. So because of it, it concerns the protection of brain data, mental privacy, the dual use of security risk, and human identity and integrity. And finally, there are no neuro-specific laws. Oh, sorry. Yes. So finally, there's no neuro-specific laws addressing the usage and user protections in Egypt. So this lacks ethical governance of neurotechnology. Please, next slide, please. So before we go into my presentation, let's give you a definition of what neurodata and mental data is. So for neurodata, it's information recorded from the brain or nervous system, like brain signals or activity patterns. So these are raw data that can be obtained using neurotechnological tools, such as EEG, fMRI, or implants. And it basically is what your brain is doing. And then we have mental data. These are information that can be used to guess a person's thoughts, feelings, memories, or intention. So they can be converted from neurodata to estimate attention through analysis by cleaning these raw data, finding the patterns, and using computer or stats model to turn these patterns into labels, and which we can then estimate estimate attention, emotion, memory, and stress. It basically, mental data is basically what is going on in your mind. So you can see in this graph that from brain data, we're using technology like EEG, neurotechnology like EEG. And from the first step, we can clean these filters. And step 4, we find the patterns. And step 5, using computer models. And from these, the computer can actually infer our emotions, our feelings. So because of this, companies or third parties can actually use the neural data, the raw unprocessed data, and actually convert it into something that could be misused. And currently, Egypt does not have a protection for mental data and neural data only. For mental data only, but not neural data. Next slide, please. So let's go into the strategy proposal where I will share my presentation. So let's go into it today. So I'll just present as I have presented during the presentation. Okay, so good afternoon, Excellencies and esteemed colleagues. So we earlier mentioned that current neurotechnology law focuses on the public sectors, which opens loopholes for private sectors to take advantage and infringe on our people's neural rights. So today, we will go into securing the Egyptian mind in the neural age and establish the foundation, legislation, and regulatory authorities on neural rights. Next slide, please. So for our strategy, an objective for today, we achieve to have a balance of protecting our people's neural rights and neglect research and development. We propose a two-pillar approach to reach our objective while allowing research and development and freedom to exist. So for pillar one, we'll first establish a new national neurospecific framework to protect neural data on the mind. And then we'll go into pillar two, where we have the formation of a regulatory board for approvals of a new neurotechnology and ongoing monitoring of development, usage, and data management of neurotechnology. So for this objective, we can create an ethical governance of neurotechnology in Egypt and focusing on the protection of brain data, mental privacy, human identity, and integrity, while reducing the dual use and security risk. Next slide, please. So again, I previously went into the definition of mental and neural data. So at the moment, under the Egypt's data protection law established in 2020, mental data is considered the highest sensitive and special category of sensitive personal data, which prohibits third parties for data collection, transferring, storing, retaining, and processing without a license from the central regulatory body, Data Protection Center. So it is strong on protections. This law only indirectly protects mental privacy and cognitive liberty. Since the raw neural data are not protected under this law, it allows third parties to process this raw data and turning it into mental data, where our people's emotions, intentions, perceptions, and memory can be inferred. So ultimately, our people's mental privacy and cognitive liberty is at risk. So it is vital that we explicitly protect our people's right to mental privacy and cognitive liberty by creating a well-rounded legislation. So for a strategy outline for Pillar 1, to create a new national neurospecific legislation. We'll first legally define neural data, mental data, and neurological device, and amend law number 151 of Egypt Personal Data Law 2020 to include neural data as sensitive personal data as well. So our major work will be focused on establishing foundational neural rights using UNESCO Neuroethics Framework proposed in 2023 and to work with different parliaments and states council for them. Next, we'll ensure that we'll establish foundational neural rights and draft new laws specifically on protecting a person's right to mental privacy and freedom of thought from manipulation of neurotechnology with full ownership of neural and mental data. And then we'll establish strict regulations for data processing with the transparency of use, setting medical and non-medical use allowance on the use of one's neural data and mental data, which must be provided with explicit, informed, and revocable consent. And finally, we'll ensure our people's neural and mental data is protected. We will establish a national data management plan framework to where both public and private sectors will follow. And in this state, all neural and mental data are to be stored physically in Egypt with data security, and data sharing will be prohibited by defaults. And then we'll go into the pillar 2 to form the Egyptian Neuroethics Regulatory Association, ENRA for short. So I propose building ENRA, which will be a national regulatory authority established to oversee and ensure the safe, ethical, responsible development and the use of neurotechnology in Egypt. So for ENRA, they'll have two goals. First, they will review and approve new technology development in the private and public sectors. An ethics approval board will be built at the design stage for both medical and non-medical use, neurotech research developments in private and public sectors. And then they will safeguard the mental privacy, cognitive liberty, and ownership of one's neurodata and mental data through the ongoing monitoring. So in the second stage, they will maintain this neurotech database registry and conduct regular audits and to ensure compliance. So for the timeline and stakeholder involved, so we propose to have it built in 2 years, where they will first amend the law starting immediately, as the presentation was in 2025 December. So we propose to have it done as immediately as the first step in 2026, January of 2026, and then go into establishing neural rights in March of 2026, and then finally going into the next step of establishing a national and neural and mental framework data management for both private and public sectors. And finally, during all this, they will build ENRA and introduce it by 2028. So this is my presentation. Sorry, next slide. Thank you for listening to securing the Egyptian mind in the Neural Age and establishing foundational legislation and regulatory authorities on neural rights. And, yeah. So that was my presentation on the actual for UNESCO in December. Now we'll go into some tips on how to present at UNESCO. So for the high school model, it'll be a bit different, as Americana has said. It'll be 2 delegates per team to represent 1 delegation. Again, you guys will have 3 minutes max as well, but no limits on the number of slides and to propose 1 strategy. So my tips, my first tip would be to manipulate the slide, and that not all slides have to be presented. So if you're running out of time, feel free to just skip them and just pull information that you need and present the important key points. But however, only move forwards in terms of slide, but never backward during the presentation until during the question panel. So the second one is how to keep within that 3 minutes time limit. So during practicing for the presentation, I would recommend practicing at different speed to see how much information can be put into the presentation. Usually during the first stage, it'll be much too long. So see what can be removed and eliminate the fillers. And for these information eliminated, it could be put into the slides and then restart. So from that on, you can refine the process until you can keep into that 3 minutes time limit. And after that, I will practice with my partner at different speed to see if any more information or what other information should be highlighted. And then at the presentation, there is a bell for 15 or 20 seconds, if I remember correctly, before the 3 minutes time limit is up. So as soon as the bell is heard, I would recommend beginning the conclusion rather than speed running the rest of the speech. Otherwise, you sound a bit unprepared and it really weakens your argument. And then on my last slides on the question panels on how to prepare for the presentation, a lot of people do get stuck on this and get shocked by it. So how you can prepare for it is think of questions that you think your peers might ask you and start preparing for it. You're free to create an appendix for these questions and go through your slides with it. Use stats, add pictures and visuals and infographics to strengthen your argument. And at the presentation, use the slides to back up your argument. And I think that's it for today, for what I have. So I feel free to go into the question panel for now.
Okay, thank you, Vivian, for your amazing presentation. I believe that the sharing of the actual actual PowerPoint and actually walking it through was very useful takeaway for our delegate participants. So let's see. Does our delegates have any questions? You can type in the chat or you can raise your hand. Or if you want me to, or if you want Miss Vivian to explain any of the slides in further detail, you can just pop a message in the chat.
We have a question.
Yes,
for
please.
Vivian. What was your biggest takeaway from this conference? What would you say?
For the biggest conference, I would say learning about different perspective from different countries, not only in terms of actually, I would say other people's problem solving skills and how they would approach a problem and how they would decide how they would tackle the same issue. So I think for the same for same country, after speaking to my peers at the end of the conference, they will actually approach it from from a completely different angle, and that really opened my perspective up, and I really like that, and I learned a lot from just talking to other people at the end.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? I do have one question for Vivian. What do you think is the most useful places to find resources for like researching on this topic? Because I know a lot of countries haven't had a lot of data or like research resources on this topic, right? What do you think is the most useful, or like how can you give some guidance to our students?
Yeah, so I think at, at the moment, Egypt doesn't have a lot of resources on neurotech as well, because neurotech is so new that most countries do not have any laws or any information or regulatories on it. So I would go into looking into the UNESCO framework to see what has been done. They usually do, they did give a overview. And from there on, go into the country's laws on if there are any data that was protected, any health data, as brain data would be categorized under health data at this current moment. So see how strong they're protected and go from there, and then compare it with other countries as well. So I think Chile at the moment has the best protection in the world. I was using that as a reference and also used it to compare with other countries, and from there on started my arguments on it.
Great, thank you. We have one question in the chat. I want to ask about something that's bugging my mind about the topic. If this was implemented, could this technology be a threat to a person thinking or an identity? Like, would it affect their personality?
Can you define what this technology is? Do you mean neurotechnology in general, or is it a specific type of neurotechnology?
Raphael, do you want to unmute? Neurotechnology in general, he said.
In my opinion, I think it depends on how it is used. As I have said previously, that I'm currently doing research on neurotechnology as a medical science student. Neurotechnology could be used for good. There are uses for there you can use it for intervention for just medical diagnosis as well. However, it could also be open to misuse. It really depends on the agent acting on it and if they have good or bad intentions. Because of this, it's very important to have laws and regulations to protect us from the bad agents.
Thank you, Vivian. Any other questions in the chat room? Can such technology be used to cure neurological diseases?
Sorry, I don't see that question.
Oh, that was following with Raphael's question. A follow-up question by Raphael.
I don't do neurological diseases, so I can't give you information on it, but it is still new, and hopefully at one point that would be we would get that ability to. But at the moment, I do not have enough information to share that.
We also have another question. While neurotechnologies create a permanent alternation in the developing individual after undergoing invasive deep brain stimulation, while these technologies endanger originality, cognitive impaired or decayed brain?
So that's a really good question. So deep brain stimulation currently is mostly done using research, using animal models. For humans, any deep brain stimulation has to be done by neurosurgeons. So unfortunately, I cannot give information for humans, but for mice, any invasive type of stimulation will create a permanent alteration because you are implanting them. However, if it will endanger the original cognitive impaired or decaying brain, it really depends on how they're used and what it's used for. So again, it's really depending on the agent and how it and the purpose of it. It could be used for good or bad in this case.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Vivian. Okay. Do we have any other questions? If so, if we don't have any other questions, I think we are good to wrap up with our current session. So after this session completes, I'll also upload the recording to YouTube. So please do follow us on YouTube and stay tuned to the recorded video, which you guys can review later on. All right. So let's give another round of applause to Miss Vivian. And if you guys don't mind, can you turn on your camera for a good picture? I'll just give it like 1 to 2 minutes for people to just set themselves. Picture time. All right, we have a few cameras on. I'll wait for like 5 seconds. Any more? Any other videos? All right. Yes, we do have. Thank you, Noah. Okay, let's look at the camera. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, let me take another one. Let's look at the camera. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, thanks everybody for participating, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the conference and in Hong Kong. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.